Welcome to Ask Tumbleweed, where we strive to explore the history of America's Old West for perspectives on issues of today. Today's question comes from KS in Cincinnati, Ohio. KS asks, Tumbleweed, how did Old West gun control stand up against what some people are demanding today? Great question. Coincidentally, an op-ed I wrote on the Second Amendment appeared recently in an area newspaper. But let's look back to the Old West. Think on the Earp brothers striding on down a dusty Tombstone, Arizona street to the OK Corral, heading to a gunfight that's indelibly printed in American lore. Perpetuated in dime store novels, the gunplay of the Old West is often hijacked by the anti-gun establishment to support, of course, their own political slant. Ironically, those Old West killings are all too often mimicked today. Gang violence, ambushes, revenge, robberies, all perpetrated by lawbreakers. Most folks of frontier America owned and carried firearms. There were no licenses, no background checks, and no permissions. The vast majority were used by necessity, including protection from varmints like rattlesnakes, coyotes, and javelina, hunting for food and cover, and self-defense from savages and outlaws. My Texas rancher cousin has found it necessary to shoot rattlesnakes, and a friend in Arizona shot a rattler to protect her old dog. Like Old West throwbacks these days, ranchers, clergy, and even mothers living near the U.S.-Mexican border increasingly carry guns as defense against desperate criminal elements that cross illegally. Death, especially violent death, is sad by any measure. Death delivering tools range from knives to poison to guns to nooses to drugs to bombs. Well, you get the picture. According to the FBI, roughly 5,100 gun deaths each year are perpetuated by violent lawbreakers, equivalent to the desperados of the Old West. Gun control? Well, Old West towns that required visitors to park their guns with a local sheriff had a rough time enforcing it. Like frontier desperados, today's lawbreakers, well, they also ignore gun laws. Ever greater restrictions on law-abiding gun owners obviously don't keep the bad guys from getting and using firearms. In the 1850s, ranchers weren't worried about 911 response time to a Comanche attack. But the gang that invades your home today can count on 911 response times of 3 to 15 minutes, assuming the defenseless homeowners can make the call. There are 15 mostly highly restrictive federal gun control regulations currently on the books in the U.S. Code Title 18. Enforcement can be spotty, and there are literally thousands more local laws and regulations, also often with less than optimal enforcement. Some knowledgeable people believe the Second Amendment was not intended to apply to the right of individual gun ownership. The same Constitution guarantees them the free expression of that opinion, as knowledgeable folks with opposite views have interpreted the Second Amendment to the context of the era in which it was specified in the Bill of Rights. In 1787, when the Constitution was approved, lots of Americans owned firearms for hunting, sport, and self-defense. Yes, there were lawbreakers in 1787 that went beyond the bounds of civility. In any case, and despite protestations of Constitution benders of today, the Second Amendment was aimed at ensuring citizen ownership of firearms. Our founders anticipated that there'd be ideologues looking to deprive folks of their rights, so embedded them in our government document. So why do people advocate for gun control? Well, folks, I suggest it's about that second word, control. Don't let for a minute that they give a particular squat about saving lives. The really great truth is, when you take away law-abiding folks' guns, only criminals will have them. Now, there's far more to controlling gun violence than protests, laws, and slogans can possibly resolve. Americans must fight the underlying violent causes by instilling strong moral values, respect, love, and faith through family, community, church, business, and government. Guns have but two enemies: rust and anti-gun ideologues. Like my Old West ancestors, I prefer the freedom, the right to own a gun. Obviously, Tumbleweed doesn't mind tackling a potentially thorny issue, so you are encouraged to submit your questions to asktumbleweed@gmail.com. Y'all, y'all might enjoy my Tumbleweed sagas, in which protagonist Texas Ranger Luke Dunn must often deal with the cultural issues and prejudices of the mid-1800s while delivering justice. I've woven some morally principled message throughout the pages of my 5 sagas to date, as published by Defiance Press and Publishing. Books are available online in print, e-audio, and ebook from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other popular online booksellers. Do buy your copies of Noasis Justice, Noasis Reprise, Noasis Deceit, Noasis Blood, and Noasis Grit today. Go do a binge read. And visit my posts on Facebook at Tumbleweed Sagas and at Ask Tumbleweed, and do check out my website at tumbleweed.me. Meanwhile, what you all do, take care.